check out the Full Press Hockey Podcast with Jim Biringer, the best in the business. It's going to be great.
Hello, everyone. Jim Biringer back again. This is Full Press Hockey, also association with the Final Word on Hockey. Here we're streaming live. YouTube, get it at Full Press Hockey here on YouTube. Watch, subscribe, watch along, give us a like. Also up on Full Press NHL on Twitter. Jim Biringer again. Chris Wassel, my tag team partner. We have a lot of fun on the show. You guys love the videos. We'd like to have fun here. Post NHL Trade Deadline, few days. When you guys see it, it'll be a little over a week since the deadline passed. Obviously the big moves. There was a hockey trade. There's a surprise trade, and there was a guy that was traded again.
Sort of like an old Monty Python video. We shall taunt you for a second time, except we shall trade you for a second time, which is a little more common than we take for granted sometimes.
It does, and I think that's where we need to start, though, right?
That's the biggest. That's probably the biggest move. That look, we had said it a few times that you kind of knew this was coming. It's just the idea of what has transpired since more than anything. Probably is one of the main reasons why we waited to do this, because there has been a lot of fallout from this on not just the one side, not just the Carolina side, but also kind of now the Rantanen side of things, where it's like, hey, wait, no, that's not quite how it went. So there's
and then the Colorado side of it, and then the Dallas side. There's like four sides to this thing. And if you look at it, so Mikko ran the big news. Obviously, he gets traded from Carolina to Dallas. He's back in the same division where he was before the trade, and he's seeing his old team on Sunday, Colorado, and now he's going to see him for 9 more years. So, and Colorado's like, I thought we got rid of this guy.
Crazy.
But we didn't. We could have had the guy, but you guys felt that $12 million was somehow still too high for him. And maybe it was more than that, but still, the fact that they couldn't get it resolved. He goes to Carolina for the Marty Nature's Jack Drury thing. More on that because, in a little bit, because they gave away a score that they desperately need. So Rantanen goes there, and the more and more this thing comes out, the more and more it shows that Carolina probably should have never traded for this guy in the first place. Like, if you really think about it, they weren't given permission to get an extension to begin with. No permission to talk. He wanted to stay in Colorado. Yeah. They were always talking with Colorado. Boom, the trade happens. He gets there. 4 nations happen. But he drags this thing along like, oh, well, listen, everybody, but in the back of my mind, I don't want to be here. I want to leave. And then he just says, yeah, can you just trade me to these like 4 preferable teams? There was probably more on the list. But he's like, well, I'll go and sign an extension with Dallas, Florida, Toronto, Edmonton, Vegas, a few other teams. So, yes, Carolina gets Logan Steinhoven, 2 first-round picks back. By the way, Rick Dhaliwal, you can credit me for the idea and the part about Carolina turning those picks into Brock Besser. Thank you very much. Because I did say that that day of the trade deadline when they got those first-round picks coming their way, I'm like, you could flip that around and get Brock Besser if you wanted to get that score that you lost because you sent Marty Natchez to Colorado. But it just comes, I know it's risk and reward, and the risk didn't pay off. But Mikko Rantanen never, ever fit Carolina, the way they played, all that. And I think Rob Brendamore said it best, and we all said it at the time. If you knew he wasn't getting an extension, why did you make the trade? Because the Pettersson deal was also on the table.
Makes you think. What could have easily happened here if a little bit more common sense was executed? And it wasn't. They took a shot. It didn't work. And it's the old, well, why are you crying about it now if you knew that this was always a possibility all along? You can say that it wasn't, but the reality is it was.
So I had the great reference. If you saw the video, our other place we work with in NHLrumors.com, the old relationship thing. Girl drags you along, or you drag her along. Could go the other way. I don't know. Sometimes that happens. A guy drags the girl along, and then at the end, you're like, we don't want to do anything. It kind of felt like this here. It's like, are we dating? Are we going out? No, yes, maybe, no, we're not. And the guy was, and Mikko Rantanen was like, yeah, I really don't want to be in Carolina. I don't like the style of play. This is not who I am. And you could clearly see in Dallas that he's already happy. He's having fun. And that's the style of play he wants. Now, if it's Pete DeBoer that brings him to the promised land, I'll be shocked. But because I will be, and I know you will be too. But Logan Stankoven's perfect Carolina Hurricane. And yes, you're not going to get Jack Drury or Marty Nature's back in it. You got a very good young player back. We know. I'll say this: if Carolina tried to re-engage with Vancouver over Rantanen and Pettersson type deal, or was going to say Edmonton, Toronto, he was never going to Jersey. Though Jersey was involved in this thing, but he was never going to go. It's interesting that. Okay, you got a player under team control, but the bigger question is why don't skilled players want to stay in Carolina? Outside of, we all know they don't want to play for the owner.
Makes you think. It really does. I mean, there's some obvious theories to it. For one, the chemistry on that team doesn't always seem to be right for one reason. For two, I do wonder if certain players get the feeling like, oh, that goaltending and defense is never going to win the playoffs. There is some kind of reality to that. You know, that players aren't stupid here.
No.
They see it for what it is. It's like you're relying on old man Anderson, who, God bless him, you know, all the heart problems and everything else,
blood clots and all that stuff, yeah.
And you know, he's come back and he looks pretty much kind of like himself, more or less. And you know, you have Kochkov, who, you know, is still pretty young, but again, they've seen the failures of playoffs past and go, well, am I really going to be that much of a difference maker? Honestly, they are looking at that as a reason for not going there or not staying there. You know, we think back to dear old Jake Gensel.
But I think Getzel's a different situation.
Little bit
of a different situation in the fact that, similar, like Tulsky said, that they traded for a UFA rental. Now, that's a deviation from their previous years in Carolina, where they just kind of played it safe. They only wanted guys with term, or they were never going to be. They were always connected, but they never pulled the trigger on rentals.
Right.
And Tulsky even said they tried to sign other guys before they signed Getzel, and they had cap issues. It's fair. I don't know if they ever got to where Getzel got the money in Tampa, because we all know the history. Dougie Hamilton got $9 million from New Jersey. Carolina didn't want to go up to $9 million.
Nope.
So it makes you wonder, like, is there a certain ceiling that you're going to reach because you're not going to pass guys on that team? And people see it on the writing on the wall there, but they play a certain way, and you can clearly see they weren't playing that way when Rantanen was there. Now that they're gone, they're back to that Carolina team, and I think they had the player in Natchez. He was the scorer they've been looking for. I know the contract negotiation over the summer was very contentious, but they've always said, "Oh, we need a scorer." Well,
you had him.
And you kind of, you know, effed around and found out that maybe we should have kept him.
Yeah, especially considering how good he looks with a certain guy from Nova Scotia who could very well win the
Pete again. So, I mean, it's just interesting, the decision making that was done. And, you know, it's easy to play Monday morning GM, and all that. But even then, a lot of people were saying, I don't know if this is the right move for Carolina at this point in time, knowing Mikko Rantanen, was still UFA, could get moved again, and he does get moved again.
I mean, look, a lot of us had talked about this, that it was a possibility. And we had some in the media who said, no, this couldn't happen. Carolina's going to get this done. And it's the more you looked at it, the more you realized, what track record do they have that gives you the feeling that they can get this done?
No, I know, exactly.
And yeah, being a general manager is not a very easy job. I get that. At some point, the sins of the owner become the sins of the general manager.
Right. And there's a reason why Don Waddell is not there anymore.
Yeah. He kind of realized,
my team going to get better?
No.
So
not this way.
No, exactly. So interesting to see what happened. Rantanen now down in Dallas. We got a potential Colorado-Dallas first-round matchup, which is going to be juicy later on. So that's going to be good. Carolina playing the way they're playing. And then, obviously one of the, the other big surprise, obviously Brad Marchand going to Florida, last minute under the deadline kind of deal. There's a lot of discussion back and forth in Boston. Obviously, Zig Verkasi and myself brought the topic up back in November. And, it was a possibility. No one really thought it was going to get there. But when the captain of the team wants to have a face-to-face meeting and now the general manager is playing hardline, now to be fair, is Brad Marchand a $7.5 million player over 3 years? Probably not.
Not anymore.
But not anymore. He's probably $6.5-7 million player. But the fact is they played hardball. They didn't want to move, so they traded him to Florida. That don't tell me that didn't have anything to do. He wanted to go to Florida because he played with Sam Bennett, and I think it's a great acquisition by the Florida Panthers.
No, it's very good. It's a gamble. There's no question about the injury that Marchand has is something that is not going to go away during the regular season and maybe even the postseason. He's not going to be 100% for the playoffs.
Mm-mm.
But at, say, 70, 80, maybe 90% even, yeah, it could still be pretty good. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't even know when he's coming back. We presume it's going to be in a couple, 2 or 3 weeks.
But we don't know.
Look, in a sort of an unrelated sort of move, or when you screw the pooch free agent wise, and you now have a situation in Nashville where they're contemplating shutting down Roman Josi. This is kind of sort of the situation in a different way, but yet kind of the same with Brad Marchand in Florida, where they go, well, do we shut him down until April, or do we shut him down until the first round of the playoffs? Do we want him to get a couple games in at least?
Yeah.
Risk it? Or do we just hope that he's as close to 100% as possible come April, what is it, 18th, I think? 18th?
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. Well, that's what they're hoping with Tkachuk too, right? Like he's supposed to be maybe mid-first round if...
Yeah, that's the bet. That's the, how do I put this? The mother of all guesstimates.
Right. And so obviously Florida was active in regards to, before that they picked up Seth Jones, and then it comes to find out Aaron Ekblad has been suspended 20 games for PED use, which is interesting, and the timing of everything, and everybody's saying, well, Florida must have known if they went out to get Seth Jones. I could see it, but I also think they're looking ahead because don't forget, Aaron Ekblad is UFA at the end of the year, and they're looking for a replacement potentially because his name was on the trade block, and it was rumored last year that they were looking to maybe move on from him last year after they won the Stanley Cup.
Right.
I could see Ekblad staying, but the acquisition of Seth Jones was really good. Look, the Atlantic Division, let's be honest, like the Central Division,
Love is a battlefield.
It's going to just be a battlefield between those teams. Like, you better finish first or you're going to, like, this is a big-time battle. Just get out first round between any of those teams. But, I like what all those teams did, but Florida trying to keep up, setting the arms race in the Atlantic with Toronto and Tampa. But I like their acquisitions, but very interesting timing with the whole Aaron Ekblad thing.
It was curious, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You sat there and go, okay, now it makes sense. I mean, and look, of course, the side sort of fallout is Chicago looks kind of like happy Chicago, like we expected all season finally.
Mm-hmm.
And that also kind of makes you wonder. It's like, gee, could you guys have done this maybe sooner?
Could have.
Deal was there.
Yep.
If my rough math doesn't fail me tonight, so Hedman's still healthy but a bit banged up
Right.
for Tampa. Hold on. Kucherov's still not feeling so good. He has the Ferris Bueller day off illness. Now, what I guess would be a little bit concerning if you're Tampa Bay is in the idea that he was sick in his last game and had to leave the game actually in the third period. So if you honestly thought that the whole wash your hands thing was over, no, not yet. Because I mean, there's a few players now that, oddly enough, I think I counted like 2 or 3 that were on the IR at one point this week due to illness.
Yeah. So advice: wash your hands,
people.
Even in those warm weather climates. So we had that surprising trade. Then we had the hockey trade. Yeah. And it's funny because I proposed a hockey trade with New Jersey and Buffalo for Dylan Cozens, Mercer, and Nemec for Byram and Cozens, which is actually a really good hockey trade.
It's a good hockey trade.
That's a good hockey trade. Solves your needs. Everybody gets their needs solved. Buffalo went in the division and traded Dylan Cozens to Ottawa for Josh Norris and Jacob Bernard-Docker. Dylan Cozens looks like a new man in Ottawa.
He's hitting everybody.
He's scoring. He's assisting. He looks like the kid everybody expected him to be. Something about a losing culture does that to a player. And he saw everybody in Buffalo be like, what's going on here? Now, that wasn't the only in-division trade we saw. Again, Boston, Florida, Boston and Toronto make some moves as well. Toronto filled needs. But the fact is, Ottawa made and Buffalo made a hockey trade that made sense and is good for both teams. And Dennis Gilbert came back in that trade too.
That is true. Wow. All right.
But it's a good trade in the fact that, Cozens gets a fresh start. Norris goes to Buffalo. It seems like these teams realize that they got to shake something up. And we knew Dylan Cozens was in the rumors the whole time. But then to see it actually go down with a team that was kind of not really in the radar, and they get him and Zetterlund. And by the way, that's a weird situation too, because I thought Zetterlund, when he was traded for part of the Meyer deal, I thought he was going to be a Shark the rest of his career. Come to find out, he just gets traded to Ottawa. Who knew he was even available?
So here's what happened, and thanks to Murray Pan for scooping this out. A couple guys kind of were on this. Apparently, they were about $1 million a year apart in negotiations. And there was this whole 3rd or 4th year thing with San Jose, which was kind of weird. And Ottawa's just like, is available? Okay. And this trade happens like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it really was. I mean, but Ottawa made a couple really nice sneaky moves that you sat there and go, okay, I had my doubts about Steve Stais a little bit. I'm not going to lie. You saw some of the previous incarnations there in Ottawa and just like they're almost there, but they're not going to do what they need to do to get things done. And, but they just kind of did. And obviously there's always the visa issues,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah,
But it's a good move by them to get Zetterlund and
good set of moves to get them where they need to go. I mean, obviously, defensively is always going to be a little bit of a dicey thing with Ottawa. They sometimes, they give up goals in bunches themselves. That's
mm-hmm.
how they are. But they are one of those teams that can be dangerous in the playoffs.
They can be, and if Allmark's going to play the way he's been playing, then they're going to be a threat once they get into the Stanley Cup playoffs because that drought could be ending this year.
Mm-hmm.
And they were one of the teams that we've been watching. Okay, Buffalo, Detroit, Ottawa. Okay, who's going to take the next step? Like somebody's got to do it here. And it looks like the Ottawa Senators decided that this was the year that they're going to take the next step.
Yep.
So, and those were some of those are the moves that made headline. Everybody's looking at Rantanen and Cozens and Marchand.
And then we had the
head scratchers.
The trades you don't want to see.
So
they happen.
So let's start in New Jersey. Okay, look.
Oh wait, guys, double head scratch.
So let's start there. First of all, you had $13 million to play with. And even before that, let's come out with the fact that, shout out to Rob Simpson on his podcast, with the fact that Tom Fitzgerald said both Dougie Hamilton and Yogi Siegenthaler are going to be out for the year after he met with the media last Friday.
But we already knew that they were probably going to be out, but didn't say it then and said it today. Okay. I'm still not going to cut him some slack because you had $13 million to play with, and I understand you don't want to trade major assets. But you traded for Cody Glass, you gave up a lot. You traded for Daniel Sprong, who you could have got on waivers, and now he's scratched again for the second straight night. After scoring a goal in his first game, by the way, with New Jersey. You traded for Brian Dumoulin and had retention. Okay. And Chevkovsky from the Islanders. Okay. You were in on bigger moves. Things didn't happen. Guys re-signed. Wingers re-signed. Centers re-signed. Brock Besser was still available. We know, I said it before, Mikko Rantanen was not coming to New Jersey because Carolina wasn't going to trade him inside the division. Right.
But Besser was there to solve your goal-scoring problem, which you have a goal-scoring problem. Defensively, this is not 1995 Devils. They're going to have to play like the 95 Devils, but they don't have Stefan Richer and Claude Lemieux and Neil Broughton and all those guys.
No, we don't have them. Sorry.
No, we don't think they have them. No, sorry. Jack Hughes is out.
We don't have I am the J.
No, I don't think. No.
Sergei Brylin doesn't come in and score timely spinorama goals. No.
Or Sean Chambers on the back end. No, you don't have those guys. You don't have those guys.
Oh, we have Brett Pesce though.
Yeah, we do. But it was interesting to see that those were the moves that they made, and interesting to dissect the comments because he said scoring wingers, it was expensive, and wingers, especially, he said guys re-signed, especially wingers. Right. So that begs the question: who were they going after? That not named Brock Besser? Was it Jason Zucker because he re-signed and he stayed? You're going to go after Jordan Greenway? What centers were you going after? Scott Lawton? Flyers probably weren't trading him inside the division.
No.
Braden Shen is a 33-year-old on a decline, and the Blues are in a playoff position. Ryan O'Reilly was going to cost you what UC Saros was going to cost you last year. Was it Casey Middlestat? Was he the guy that the Devils lost out on?
It's possible because I mean Zucker really never got beyond kicking the tires because it looked like both sides were interested in, basically an extension. Besser, it was sort of later confirmed that the prices were total insanity. The other guy that the Devils were in on, and this is where the old divisional premium comes in, and it got ridiculous, was Rickard Rakell. Pittsburgh wanted basically what amounted to be a first-round pick and a conditional first for Rakell, plus a low-end prospect.
That's a lot for Rickard Rakell.
And look, I get this. Rakell has been able to rejuvenate his career after a lot of people thought it was done due to injury.
Right.
Was he their most valuable trade chip? Oh, absolutely. There's not even a discussion there. Were you going to get what you wanted for him? No. So Pittsburgh quickly figured out that wasn't going to happen. You weren't going to get the moon and stars treatment. And they backed off. So if you're Tom Fitzgerald and all the dance cards are kind of like coming off the proverbial dance floor, it's the old adage of Spaceballs. Do something.
Yeah.
And basically that's kind of what he did. Now, I'm not going to cut him slack here.
No.
Because you had ample opportunities before the trade deadline to get something done. By the way, the Devils still haven't put Dougie Hamilton on the frickin' IR.
They need to, because he's not playing until the playoffs. If he plays.
So that's your 10 games. I mean, I don't care if you put him on the LTIR, the Siberian IR, the
Trans-Siberian IR.
The Express IR. I don't care. But again, you had opportunities. I mean, look, I do understand this team can make the playoffs without these guys. I do get it.
But you got to give them something.
But you have a chance to do something in the playoffs and do damage. Yes, even without Jack Hughes. And in some ways, I'd argue you have a chance to do more damage because teams are going to just overlook you.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened the other night, by the way. Oh, hi, Columbus.
Yeah.
You did overlook New Jersey, and that was a mistake. But look, we've said this until the cows come home. You had to get something done. Even if it wasn't long term or longer term, even if it was short term, you took a shot. Okay, great. In the summer, you revisit a few things. You send a few certain players to a third world country.
Plot. Holla.
Robodust Island, anyone?
Maybe.
But that's the kind of idea that we're looking at.
And I'm just curious because again, this is the second year in a row now where you had money and you really didn't do anything.
Right.
Look, I know that you solved your goalie issue and all this stuff last year and you went back to basics, getting defense and all this stuff. I get it. But they still felt like those moves, I think regardless if the team was healthy or not, I think those are just still the moves that probably get done. I'm be all realistic. Like we could talk about aggressiveness and going for scoring wingers and all this stuff. I think the plan from the start was always just to add depth, and that was it, and create competition. I don't really think they were going to do anything else. That's just my opinion, and the way I'm reading these tea leaves and reading between the lines is, I think that was the plan. And everything else was just a mirage.
It does seem to make sense, though.
Right? I mean...
Yep.
Yeah, Leon Draisaitl's good at hockey. Let's just be honest. But no, I mean, like we've seen this team for a long time, and look, I get it. Injuries happen. Deadline change plans happen because of injuries, but that didn't stop Dallas. Tyler Sagan's out. Miro Heiskanen's out. Oh, we'll just have Mikael Granlund and Cody Ceci and Mikko Rantanen. It's not a problem. Oh, Matthew Tkachuk's out. Oh, we'll go get Seth. Like, I get it. Those teams are in a different echelon, but you actually had a legitimate chance if you added a Brock Besser or Raquel or somebody with punch to beat Carolina in the first round.
Yeah,
legitimately had a chance to beat Carolina.
Still think you do, but now you got to do a way different,
it becomes harder because Carolina is your kryptonite in the playoffs. Everybody's like, oh, Carolina. Everybody seems to be looking over Carolina, but no one realizes the playoff history. The Devils have won one series against the Carolina Hurricanes in the playoffs. It was 2001. I believe if my math is done correctly, they only have 2 or 3 wins in Carolina in the playoffs.
Yeah. Just a bit.
So, it's not a cakewalk when you play Carolina, especially a Carolina team that's back to being a team and knows how to beat New Jersey.
Or are you trying to slide out of that spot?
And play what? Washington? Like Washington,
it's not that it's much better, but it's a hair better.
It's a hair better because those teams just exchange road wins the whole series. That's all they do.
Yeah, if you're the Devils, you're fine with that.
You're fine with that, but I think Washington can find a way to beat you in the playoffs.
Oh, that's a given.
But again, that we could go down that road a little later on. I want to get to everybody's favorite general manager. Well, the one I like to criticize the most. Lou Lamoriello. Okay. Look, I'm not taking anything away from a Hall of Fame career. I'm not. He's a Hall of Fame general manager who turned around New Jersey Devils, 3 cups, 9 years, all that fun stuff, playoffs. Okay. That's pre-salary cap world, bud. He just doesn't understand that when he wants to retool, it's always a year or two too late. For how many years do we say Islanders got to get younger, Islanders need goal scoring, all this stuff? You played hardball with Brock Nelson, and I've said it, Marchand, Toffoli, those guys weren't getting more than 3 years. Nelson, 3 years, take it or leave it. That's what he did with New Jersey. Guys, you got to realize, like guys like Kirk Muller, Driver, all these guys want to be Devils, but they want a little bit more money. Lou said, no, get out. So you see that with Nelson. Now you get a pretty good haul for Brock Nelson from Colorado. But why didn't you move Kyle Palmieri or JG Pajot or Anders Lee and the other guys that you could have made available to get similar? I'm not saying everybody was going to have a similar return to Brock Nelson, but say you move Pajot and Palmieri, that return equals the Nelson return, and you flipped your team and you could do what Washington did.
And it was a seller's market.
Right.
Big time.
Big time seller's market.
I mean, we joked about it, just some of the prices pre-trade deadline. If Brock Nelson gets you X, you should be exploring your Y and Z options very quickly and in short order. And they never really did.
No. Because we heard extension talks for Palmieri, and it seems like those are going to get done, which makes no sense. But okay, like you dipped a toe in it. If you're gonna do it, just do it, as Matthew McConaughey says. Like you're gonna do it, just do it. Like Boston decided, okay, we're gonna rebuild. Screw it, everybody goes.
Yeah,
like everybody went.
Was it popular in Boston? Oh no. God, no.
No, absolutely not. But I think people on the island were clamoring for it.
100%. Because, you looked at certain players and you looked realistically at how long they were going to be out. And now it becomes absolutely crystal clear that guys like, Varlamov are going to be out for the rest of the regular season. Barzal ultimately
Rest of the regular season.
regular season, like we had kind of hinted all along. And then you have several other players who are obviously hurt that weren't really much in the plans.
No.
This had been the time, always will be the time. And there was the one move, and you were like, but
you could have done more.
You could have. We want more and more and more.
And you just didn't do it. To me, I think that's the ultimate. Like, they just didn't do enough. I kind of classify the Islanders as kind of a loser because you had more to do and you didn't just do it. Like, you didn't do it. Like, I know everybody, like, Kuzmenko to LA, I know they want to try to get Raquel and Besser. I'm not sure LA was going to. Again, Vancouver was going to make LA pay the in-premium division, trade.
Yeah.
Like we saw with Boston and Toronto. You got to get a third team involved to get the price for Carlo to go to, which is a really good move because you addressed the issue with when Tanev was out.
Right.
But, like, to me, Seattle probably could have moved more players than they did because it was seller's market. But again, prices were high. I think Vancouver, look, I know the issue is, and we've said it before, we'll say it again, the issue in Vancouver is they didn't want to wave the white flag. They wanted to see if the players could turn it around. And Besser either could sign, stay, extend, leave, who knows? But he's an interesting player to watch, and that team's interesting because it feels like Petey's kind of turned it around. Calgary's got Huberdeau doing his thing. He's kind of finally back around to who he was. This is going to be an interesting playoff race, to be honest.
This might be the most compelling playoff race that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Wolf, you are in the spotlight.
Yes, you are.
And it is going to be a lot of fun.
It is going to be fun.
I've said it to more than a few people. It's like, don't sleep on Calgary here.
No, don't do it.
Got a nice team, good pieces, producing well. Schedule's not awful. It's a little tough. It's close to the top 10 in terms of toughest schedule, at least according to record. But again, that's relative this time of year. I mean, it doesn't take much to be on a roll. Wolf is probably a little bit more rested than your average starting goalie. Then again, he played 17 games last year. So 39 is kind of like, well, yeah, okay. It's, you're getting into that territory where it's like, is he going to run out of gas? Is he not going to run out of gas? I think they know what they're doing with him. And then you got Vancouver, obviously, always catching fire.
Mm-hmm.
One way or on or off the ice. It's been an interesting ride. The one thing is very clear, Jim. Quinn Hughes is not 100% at all.
No, he's not. He's not 100, but he's coming back because the team needs him.
I mean, the Everett, though, I don't care what anybody says. Man's got some cojones.
He does. Look, I think this is a ways away. Do I think he's going to end up leaving? No. But Vancouver needs a Winnipeg Jets exorcism real quick.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to, okay, we need to lay out a plan, figure out what the plan is, stick to the plan, and go from there.
Right.
Because if you don't, I think he does leave.
Something.
And like with Buffalo, Darlene's not going anywhere, but you have other guys that are looking to get out.
Oh, the ship is going to literally capsize.
100% it will. Paterka, Tuck, our guys, Power. Like those.
Power's just had enough.
And Byram's RFA, don't forget that. He hasn't signed. He has to get a new contract.
That's another problem.
That's another problem. And your goaltending's still not good. Another problem.
Disaster.
Your coach, no. GM, problem.
You had a better coach that you let go because you thought you were, yeah.
You needed another coach. You need a president of hockey operations. Maybe you should bring Ken Holland in there.
Mm.
A lot of messes around the league right now. But the thing is we see it on both sides. Like, you got Utah, St. Louis, Vancouver, Calgary on the one side. And Anaheim's having fun. San Jose's having fun. And then you get Ottawa, Detroit, Rangers, Montreal is in there a little bit. So the playoff races are great. And it's going to make for some compelling hockey. And I think the trade deadline, I think the momentum that the NHL had from Four Nations through Stadium Series through the NHL trade deadline carried over. What a month of hockey it's been. Any final thoughts on the trade deadline before we wrap it up?
You know, Jim, and for everybody listening, the trade deadline did what it was supposed to do. It created more entertainment. It may not have been the entertainment some fans wanted, but you look at your fringe battles and you look at potential sea changes in each conference, and you've got them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all you can ask for. You have enough teams competitive. I know everybody hates the word parity, but this is a different kind of parity in the sense that we have actual teams trying to lift their level to get into a playoff spot. It's not teams backing their way in.
No,
right
it's
now.
not. And the trade deadline lived up to the hype.
It actually did for once. We didn't have I could remember this maybe a few years ago with the deal where Gaborik went to the Rangers. And it was the forever trade deadline. And that was really like the only major move of that trade deadline. And we're all just waiting for something else to drop that never does. And that happens too often in trade deadlines. We didn't have that this year. And we even had our 255 special with Brad Marchand.
Yeah. And oh by the way, maybe Pastrnak might have been traded a couple of years ago when he signed his extension if the Bruins were hardlined. And when it's a real possibility, because now it opens Mitch Marner's eyes. Because he almost could have gone. Now he has every right to say no. But if he didn't, he could have been a Carolina Hurricane.
It's true.
And look out for that Utah Hockey Club, man. I love what they're doing out there. So a lot of interesting hockey. Love the momentum. It's been, like I said, it's been a great month. Momentum's going to carry over. We got playoffs. It's coming up. We'll do this again. We always like to have some fun here. Again, Full Press Hockey, final word on hockey, collaboration here on the podcast. Trade deadline lived up to the hype. This is Jim Biringer, Chris Wassel. Get it, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Up on YouTube, Full Press Hockey. Like, subscribe, stay tuned for more. Check it out. We'll be back again real soon.
Barry Trotz, Nashville Predators, making sure you're listening to Full Press Hockey Podcast.